Hello, everybody. My name is Captain Aries, and I just wanted to talk about She-Ra. Specifically, I was going to talk about Entrapta. Now, I love Entrapta as a character. Why am I talking about Entrapta? Because I am excited about Season 5 that's coming out on May 14th, and I want to talk about Entrapta. Because I love her. I love her character development. I love the way it changes. And note in the beginning of this that this is all kind of technically my opinion based upon, research paper I did. Yeah, I did a research paper in college surrounding Entrapta and the way that her relationships have affected her growth as a person and socially as a person. Sorry, I wanted to not keep saying for no reason, so I sang instead. Yep. So, I wanted to talk about Entrapta because I'm really hoping in this season 5 she's able to reunite with Hordak and able to make Hordak back to how he was. Potentially not, and if so, that will be really sad for me, because I think that's something they need to work out and talk about, and Hordak... I also loved Hordak from the very beginning, so I just didn't know I was going to go this far, this deep into Hordak land. So, I enjoy Hordak as a character, but I also enjoy Entrapta. So I wrote a paper about how her relationships affecting each other and how she's grown as a person, because in the beginning, when we first met Entrapta, she was very much... I'm going to say this before I even say that, is that I believe that Entrapta, this is just based on my opinion and based on the research paper that I did, because before I was going to do a research paper about her relationships, I was going to connect that to autism development in terms of, I have a brother who is autistic who has kind of the opposite spectrum. I know they've changed things around, but my brother had Asperger's syndrome. He still does. He has not syndrome, goodness, but Asperger's, where he's more sensitive, he doesn't like to socialize, and he's very fixated on something, which is gaming. And he also has a lot of issues with voicing his opinions and feelings and things of that nature. Oftentimes you would get just noises instead of actual responses to things. He's functional on the autism spectrum scale, but he's just there, And I recognized a lot of some of the things that she had with what he had, my brother. And I very much believe, through all the signs, that she is an autistic individual. I don't know that for sure. There's no confirmation on that or anything. But I can see a lot of autistic tendencies involving a fixation on science, social cues not being read right or not being read at all, not understanding other humans or understanding empathy towards other humans just for the fact of being wrapped up in what you are doing and your point of view. A fixation on food issues involving tiny foods for her, whereas my brother would be he only wants certain foods like applesauce to go with something, or not touching foods and things like that. He had a lot of issues with that. And so I see a lot of the same cues in the way that she approaches relationships and how he approaches social situations, though he is more inclusive. She is the opposite, where she is more says what she thinks of what she needs or what she wants, and wants a response to be able to continue that, or doesn't even need a response and just gets up in personal space, whereas he doesn't like people getting into his space. It's kind of an opposite on that. I forget the word, as in people who are more boisterous and people who are more inward based. You know what I mean. Know what I mean? People say introvert, extrovert. Yes. So I talked about Entrapta, and I talked about her first relationship and chronologically how it's changed, because my teacher was yo, you don't know for sure, and there's not a lot of research helping you there with autism relationships. A lot of them aren't very well done right now, especially since concrete research about autism is constantly changing now, since it has become more of a understandable thing now. And that's very true, considering how far we've come in autism awareness to now autism awareness. And so it's constantly evolving, and books take time to make. And so a lot of the information that would involve that, since there's no confirmation on Entrapta, would be very difficult to add on to it and also find enough sources for what I was doing. So I said, fair enough. I will just do it as the fact of her character development changes with the relationships that she has based on her personality. And my teacher's like, great, go for it. She has no idea what cheer is. So I get Entrapta and I go, chronologically, what relationships do she have? Do she have? What relationship did she have? She had Adora. Dora was the first, Dora and the Princess Alliance was the first people she got with to talk about stuff with. Second was Catra and a trade-off going to the Horde. And third big one was Hordak. Hordak was probably the biggest one out of all three of those. We first started with Adora, and Adora basically didn't try to connect with Entrapta, and once Entrapta wasn't able to understand Dora was stuck in a lot of her own issues, which is okay. Everybody has those times where you gotta do that. And it's understandable on both sides, is that Entrapta can be hard to deal with if one is not paying attention to how she needs to be dealt with and how she needs to be talked to in general. Basically, you can't make an autistic person or a person in general do something that you want all the time just because it's logical, because sometimes people don't listen to logic. Or some people only listen to logic and do the opposite of what should be done and does something different. So Entrapta wasn't following all the princesses when they needed to do things because she was easily distracted, easily able to go off on a tangent and go off on her own with little regard or empathy to the other people in the group. Now, in doing this, it made Adora and the Princess Alliance really strained with Entrapta, and Entrapta noticed that she wasn't being as cared for as what the others showed for each other. Like, Bo and Glimmer's relationship was very different from like Entrapta and Adora's, because they care for each other differently, and she could notice that logically her relationship wasn't as strong as the others. And she could tell that, even though she knew that they were friends and coming to save her, she still agreed with Catra because it sounded right. And then the Adora trade-off went to Catra and the Horde, and Catra and the Horde, Catra basically said, your friends aren't coming. Your friends don't actually think of you as friends. If so, they would have been here by now. Or they would have done something. Right now, they're doing something else. And Entrapta's like, wow, that... okay. And then Catra said, but I have your interest. And Catra, who's good at manipulation, is probably easily able to understand how to make someone do something. That's generally what it is. If you know how to entice someone, you are able to manipulate them. And so Catra, who's very good at manipulating people right at that moment, recognized that she could manipulate this person who has a lot of skills, which would be Entrapta, to do something she wants by offering the fact that she could do whatever she wanted at the Horde as long as she was making weapons. Entrapta jumped on it because as I said, her social connections aren't as strong because she's not feeling as much empathy towards others and things of that nature, because she hasn't felt a strong connection enough to actually be able to form those bonds. Since she was probably grown up by robot parents, I'm going to guess. That makes sense. So, she goes to the Horde, and through that relationship, though, she starts to understand what type of person Catra and Scorpia are, based on how Catra treats her versus Scorpia, having two people that she works with daily, being able to differentiate which one is doing what type of treatment to her. Now, of course, the lines blur because she meets Hordak, and her interest and Hordak's interest align. Now, since Hordak and Entrapta's interest is science is like Entrapta's bread and butter. You could probably tell her anything as long as there's science involved. She is intrigued. She will go for it, maybe. So she gets involved with Hordak because Hordak's having issues, and science she understands. And a lot of times people who have autistic individuals in their family or friends and stuff like that, a lot of times going through their shared interest is the only way to connect with them very strongly. It's difficult to talk to somebody without their interest being involved. Because if their interest is not involved, they are not interested. So you have to play to those interests to create that bond sometimes. And that's just true. And that's true with a lot of people too, but especially those who are autistic individuals, they're either super territorial over their interest, or they only can communicate through those interests really well. They excel with interest in general. And so he, having the same interest as her, which is science, and knowing more than she does, she is intrigued, she wants to know more, she wants to know what he knows, and he wants to know what she knows. And this creates the bond that changes Entrapta from just having Catra as her friend and Scorpia as her friend. She actually has a shared interest and a stronger bond with Hordak, and Hordak feels the same way because Entrapta is not afraid of him. Also, because of her no social boundaries, she works really well with people who are aggressive at the start. So someone who is super aggressive just to protect themselves or to hide internal issues may work well with someone like Entrapta, who does not believe personal boundaries exist. And so she just flies off the handle and does whatever she wants. And they realize they can't control them, so they are able, if they have a shared interest, to somewhat make that a circle in which they stay in. I really enjoy Entrapta as a character, especially with Hordak, because of the way that the bonding process happened was believable, understandable from both sides. Mind blown. Don't even care. Everything else could be nothing, as long as they're together. Is that through that relationship she realized that Catra was more toxic, and she started to realize what a friend was, because you and me as viewers could see it in the fact that when Hordak got mad, she didn't say anything, or she didn't, it's not that she didn't say anything, she actually went to his side when he fell down because he was mad at somebody, at Adora, and showed caring. She showed empathy to someone, she showed understanding for situation of someone else's issues when she decided not to say anything else, even though she knew something was going up with Hordak. And when Catra said that they should still do it despite everything, her first thought wasn't self-centered in the way that, it wasn't centered around what she was thinking, Entrapta herself. Her first thought was, I need to tell Hordak because he is my closest person, and I need to tell him because it's important he knows. And that showed development from when she would do things on her own, leave the group, and do all that with Adora, or with Catra, where she would only ask Catra what she would want to do, or Catra would decide for her. This was actively Entrapta noting that she needed help with a decision, and instead of doing it herself, goes to the person who's closest to her to tell, and that was Hordak. And that was so good. So good. But also the fact that later on, with Beast Island, we had, Adora, Bo, and Micah all at Beast Island, and so was Entrapta, who seemingly was unaffected by the depression vines, is what I'm going to call it. Maybe I'll just call them sad vines. But that was because her interest was so strong. I believe that was like a power almost, in a way, that her interest and self-motivation was so strong towards science, and the fact that it was there, that she was unaffected for a really long time, whereas Micah had more family-motivated interest. And Entrapta was a showcase of how self-motivation and interest can keep you away from self-doubt and things like that. But when she finally thought about Hordak is when she really lost it, because Hordak reminds her when she lost him or was left by him, essentially, she realized that that relationship could potentially never be fixed, and that hurt her so much that she forgot her own self-motivation. I never got to do my research paper on the fourth season, which is upsetting to me, because if I'd done that, I would have had more to go on in terms of showcasing how the relationship is not friendship, it's love. It's okay if you disagree with me. I am okay with that. I personally think Entrapta and Hordak are really good for each other in a relationship. But I understand why people may not like that. Just minding that it's not an age reason ever, because Entrapta is 35. She is a grown woman. 25 to 35 is what the Wikipedia says and what people have said. And the crew. And Hordak obviously is really old, but he's a clone. And he's an alien creature, so I feel like we can't really age that really well. But basically, it's just a dude, honestly. Just a dude. Alien dude. I believe they help each other in a way that's not like the sickening type of, a lot of relationships that are like this is like a mutual benefit and we both benefit from it. It's not like a mutualism type of relationship. It's a supporting mutualism. It's not just you take something from me and I take something from you and we have fights. It's I can support you with the way I think, and you can support me with the way you think in the places that I suffer from. But it's not something that's not natural. Like, it's not something that they're forced to give. It's just Entrapta's lack of personal space just happens, like, naturally her lack of personal space just happens to match up with the way that he puts up his defenses and how fast he can put them down because someone has finally gone past them. In the same way that he makes her feel that her interest can be found in other people because he's interested in it, but he's not interested in it because of Entrapta. He is interested in it because he is. This is like a natural, more chemistry thing, whereas a lot of characters in shows when they meet and they want to fall in love and they change themselves, but neither of these people really had to change themselves to fall in love, in my opinion. It was them already naturally having personality traits or things that they do or skill sets that help them fall in love, and through that type of relationship or whatever it may be to other people, that relationship, it changed only to help what was already there. That is my bread and butter. Sorry if I was loud. Sorry, I get really excited. Anyway, I'm excited for season 5. This was my Entrapta analysis without pictures. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do editing. Somebody tell me how to do editing. Please, for the love of gosh, what do I do to edit these videos? Because I have no idea how to edit. Well, I moreover have no idea how to edit videos for YouTube upload because I do all mine through Photo Booth. So if anybody has any comments about that, let me know. Any fan theories about Entrapta, let me know. If you don't agree with what I agree with, that's okay. Just please don't attack me because of what I agree with, because I'm trying not to attack other people. I mean, I'm not really trying. I just kind of don't attack other people, because if you don't believe Entrapta and Hordak are in love, like, that's okay. Because even if it's like a good friendship, heck yeah, I'm all for that too. I don't even care. I just want them to be able to be for each other, you know? Like, help each other, either to support. But yeah, I'm ready for season 5. Who's ready for season 5? Alright, I'm gonna go. I will probably put another video out on like May 17th because I'll be so thrown for a loop with the end of She-Ra. So yeah, that was my little TED Talk of the day. Bye! Not a TED Talk, but it's a YouTube talk, I guess. Oh, bye, everybody! That was it.